difficulties you've encountered with starting an edibles business like this in this time when things are changing so much?
The biggest thing is over-regulation by authorities who do not understand what they're regulating. That's probably the biggest frustration. Things like requiring testing for edibles is ridiculous, redundant, and useless, essentially, because I've been in this since the beginning. And the plain and simple fact is that it's very, very difficult to test edibles. Any lab will tell you that, unless they literally break down every single ingredient of the edible and know exact weight and molecular distribution of each ingredient that they're dealing with in the edible, and how they're combined and how they react with the type of THC or CBD or other things in this edible. So realistically, that's been our biggest frustration, is I have no huge issue with keeping people safe. But when you make us test something over and over and over again, and the tests are different every time when it's the same exact product, and we know that it's getting the same amount, and it works the same way, it feels the same way, it really frustrates me as a business owner and as a pioneer in this field. Because when you have, the easiest way to do it is the way that we've always done it, which is you test your raw product. You test your hash or your oil or whatever. You get the amount that's in that, okay? Then you take that product and you decarb it. So what you've done then is transition it into an active ingredient. Okay, so you can actually use that and you're gonna feel it, and it's gonna work for you as medicine and work to change your head state too. Now, once you've done that, we would test again. Then we know exactly what we're adding to the dry materials that we're making these edibles out of. Okay, so say we have a 600 milligram dose right here. Okay, and we know this is 600 milligrams. It's very easy for us to cut this into 6 and say, here is 6 100 milligram doses, and then put each one of those 100 milligram doses into a different packet, okay, of the raw ingredients, and have that be one thing. We know that's 100 milligrams. The frustration with me lies in, okay, once it's put into that package, we need to send that off again. And when I send that off again, do you know what that's going to test at? It's not going to test at 100 milligrams. It's going to test at about 37 milligrams usually. Get about 30% feed through of product into what they actually end up testing. Now, if I was to go off of their numbers, I'd triple the amount that was in there. So I'd put literally 300 milligrams of product into this thing trying to get it to 100 milligrams. Then I send it off to get tested, and who knows? It could come back at 90 or it could come back at 220. So therein lies my frustration. And it's a volatile science, but the most accurate judge of potency is right here. Is your own body. And that's what we would do with every single one of our batches. We would try it, we'd make sure it worked and it felt the way that you're supposed to feel, and go from there. And truthfully, I didn't care what the test came out at, as long as it was under 100. And the funniest thing is that we had a batch go out that was 37 tested at, and we had a batch go out that was 99 tested at. And you know what? Felt exactly the same. Yeah. And that's where my frustration lies. Yeah. Now they're requiring us to even put that testing on the package. So I can say on here, 50 milligrams THC, 25 CBD, and it's gonna feel like that. But on this package, I have to put, it's really only 37 milligrams THC. So then someone's gonna take this and they're gonna go, oh, well, it's only 37 milligrams THC. It's not really gonna feel like 100 milligrams. And it's gonna eat the whole thing. So what it leads to is misappropriate dosing and misinformation, plain and simple. And I understand that it's science that's providing us with this misinformation, but It's not an exact science. It's not like, what they would do with pharmaceuticals is they would take their powder, okay? And if every single pharmaceutical pill needed 30 milligrams, they'd take the amount to make each pill, and then, if they're making 300 pills, they'd take that amount of filler material and put it in. And then they'd take 30 milligrams times 300 and put it in with the filler material. Then they'd shake the whole thing up and make sure it's equally distributed, and then they'd put it in their pill machine and press each one of them out. And each one would be 30 milligrams. Now, that's not saying that one isn't going to be 22 milligrams and one isn't going to be 36 milligrams, because it's not exact. But what they're saying is that we need to give people these exact numbers every single time and print that right on the package, and that's really what it's going to be. And to me, I feel like that's deceiving and taking it the wrong direction. Same thing with the childproofing. I'm all for keeping it safe, but you know where safety lies? Education. It does not lie in a pop-top container. Who's this going to stop? Seriously? Who's this going to stop? Really? Really? Like, my 5-year-old can very easily read squeeze sides below cap. And that's childproof. That's child resistant. But try to get into this.
Yeah, you're not getting into
How are you going to get into this? How are you going to open this up?
Yeah.
This is not only child-proof, it's stoner-proof, it's idiot-proof, it's adult-proof, it's toddler-proof, it's teenager-proof. You know what the only thing it's not? Scissor-proof. But we're not going to be able to make these like this anymore. They're going to have to be in little teeny containers like this, which really frustrates me. So, as I said, overregulation by people who don't understand what they're regulating. Who don't fully understand what they're regulating. They understand it somewhat, and they're trying to do things for safety's sake and for, quote unquote, the children. The most irritating battle cry that I've ever heard. But all that it's doing is feeding the pockets of whoever makes these containers and making us look ridiculous and excessive. Show me the dead kids. This stuff is so dangerous. Killed more kids than polio, right? There's no dead kids out there from cannabis, period. Especially with this 100 milligram limit. Now they've taken the 100 milligram limit and said that it needs to be in 10 milligram, clearly discernible amounts. It's ridiculous. It's taking too far and then taking it to the next level of too far. So that's really where my frustration is and what I don't understand.